cleaner, a radio personality, speaker, and author of The Secret Lives of Hoarders. I'm excited to announce that in January, Matt Paxton will host a new television show on PBS called Legacy List with Matt Paxton. This new show highlights families that are downsizing and settling an estate of a loved one. He's here today, right here, to talk about decluttering and downsizing our possessions. Ladies and gentlemen, please give him a round of applause, Mr. Matt Paxton.
I like those senior text codes. Those are awesome. Maybe we should do more of that. That is a much skinnier version of me. That is a long time ago. We are getting older, and it happens. All right, who's that? Anybody know who that is? King Tut. Right? You can't take it with you. He's the only guy in the world that did take it with him. Nobody else did. We're going to talk about stuff today. How many of you, show of hands, are currently dealing with thinking about downsizing or downsizers, going through all the stuff you had in your house? All right, the whole room. How many of you, show of hands, how many of you lived in your house for 10 years? How about 20 years? How about 30 years? How about 40 years? How about 50 years? All right, average is 30. We've been in a house for 30 years. Can we clean it in a long weekend? No. It took me 5 years to gain 40 pounds. Can I lose it in a weekend? No. All right, it's going to take time. And it's going to take some helpful hands. All right, so let me give you some hints here today. There we go. All right, that's who I am. I've been cleaning houses for 20 years. If you've never seen the TV show I was on, it was really gross. It was really disgusting, and I loved it. It was super fun. I get to clean out the messiest homes in the country, and I really, really do enjoy it. A couple people have grabbed me and said, well, how do you do it, man? Well, I get to see the whole story. Y'all just see on TV, you just see me cleaning out a house. I actually get to see that person get their life back. I get to see them find joy and happiness again. A couple of you, I'm not going to do a class on hoarding today. I'm going to do more on downsizing, but people ask me, why are people hoarding? Well, something bad has happened to them. They wouldn't choose to live that way. There's some type of trauma, there's some type of tragedy, and they're looking for their happiness and self-worth in stuff. Just like some of us look for our happiness and self-worth in drinking, or alcohol, right? Or faith, or exercise, or work. We all look for our happiness and self-worth somewhere, good and bad. We just have, our hoarders have to look for it in stuff. Right? So the quick lesson on that is, there is a reason people hoard. Our job is to compassionately understand what they're doing. Anybody here perfect? Anybody? Yeah. No, sir. You already said you weren't. All right? You told me out there you're not. All right? None of us have the right to judge somebody else for what they're going through. All right? And so it's real easy in hoarding because it's so visual. Anybody got a secret, you can hide it. Hoarders can't hide their secrets. Okay? All right, let's get into this. We're going to talk about some cool stuff. I do have a new show. If you behave, I will show you the minute of the TV show at the end of this class. I have 3 young boys. They are 6, 8, and 10, so everything begins with, if you behave, we will do X, Y, Z. All right, so it's time to get rid of our stuff, and the term I always hear from my clients is, one day, this will all be yours. And their adult children call me and say, it's all mine. And I don't know what to do with it. Okay? By the way, the person that calls me the most is the oldest adult daughter. You're all nodding your heads right now, because you are the oldest adult daughter. But also now we have typically the oldest adult daughter and then their mom. And they're both in the same room, because they're only 20 years apart. Right? So, what's the hardest part about our stuff? Nobody wants it. Nobody wants any of it. And the dining room is the biggest example of this. My mom and my aunt used to fight over who got the stuff in the dining room. And now people fight over who has to take it. I joked, my wife and I we got divorced 2 years ago, and the only thing we still argue over is who has to take the china, because nobody wants it. Okay? Dining rooms are difficult, because for a lot of us, our family happened in the dining room. Our big families would come together, they would spend time together, they would visit. It all happened right there in the dining room over a big family dinner, sometimes every Sunday. But now, family time is not in the dining room. Where is it? It's in the kitchen, living room, in the car, at the beach house. It's somewhere else. And I think when I say nobody wants your stuff, we get depressed because we think they don't love me, they don't want me. That's not the case. They love you. They just want to spend time with you somewhere else. They don't need your dining room furniture anymore to love you. They need time with you doing something real. So it's wrong to think they don't love you and don't care about you. They just really don't care about stuff. Okay? Specifically the millennials. Okay? I used to really not say a lot of positive things about millennials. The more time I've spent with them, as they're also the largest growing caregiving workforce there is. They work very hard. They just don't care about stuff. Often, a lot like our grandparents that came back after the war. They didn't care about stuff, they cared about experiences. Believe it or not, millennials are behaving the same way, which I think is a good thing. Alright, I say it twice because I really got to make sure you understand that. Alright, the belief is when we die, everybody's going to get together, they're going to throw a big party, they're going to have, look at it, copper charger plates, crystal, fine china, lace, they got it all. Do they do that with you now when you're alive? No, so why on earth would they do it when you're dead? They're not going to. The reality is, they're leaving with a whole bunch of decisions they don't know what to do with. Okay? I had a call, there's a company in North Carolina called Replacements. Anybody know what they are? They used to take all the china. They called in today and they said, dude, we're good. We don't need any more. We are full. And their business is taking people's old china. So we got enough for the rest of our life. Alright, quick tips. We're going to go through 10 really fast tips on how to clean. First, this is the first one's not even on here. I used to, when I was doing the hoarding world, it was hard for people to let go of things. Okay? And I had a little trick I would do. I'd say, hey, if your house caught on fire, give me the top 10 things you want to take out of that house. Write it on a piece of paper. And I give them a piece of paper, and they start writing. And they say, okay, can I write on the back? Sure, do whatever you want. And I pull out an old stopwatch and I'd say, okay, go. Your house is on fire, you got 2 minutes. Get up and go find that stuff. And how many items would they find? Maybe one, usually none. Okay. What are the top 3 items? Yell it out. What do you want to keep?
Pictures.
Pictures, yes ma'am. Money. How about your partner, your spouse? Should we wake them up? Okay? Give the guy a chance, okay? Wake him up, he can't hear anything. And the pet is always ahead of partner. I never understood that. Alright. But you get my point. Alright, we focus on stuff, and at the end of the day, stuff really doesn't matter. Alright, it's people and the pets and the people that bring us joy and we live with and we love. That's what matters. Right? It's really hard to let go of your stuff because we do believe our stuff represents who we are. And that's a really hard conflict with whether I'm dealing with hoarding or I'm dealing with seniors that are aging. At some point, I said earlier, your stuff, it brings you happiness and joy. Well, it's not who you are. Right? And this is where we get into very philosophical beliefs here. But at the end of the day, how you treat people and how you behave is who you are, not the stuff that you're holding in your purse. And I could be preaching for an hour on that, but these tips are going to help you just trim through the stuff and get started, because getting started is the hardest part. I've run, every 5 years I run a marathon, because I'll gain a bunch of weight and then it's time for me to lose it. Okay? And that first 3-miler is the hardest run. By the time I get to the 26.2 mile, it's easy, because I've been training all year. But it's that getting started to run that first time, because it hurts, and I don't want to do it. Okay? That's what we're going to teach you today, how to get started. Alright, number 1, include everyone in the house. We tend to, just at our age, say, I'll do it myself. And you say, I'm not going to include my husband, he's lazy, he's going to sit on the couch, he's not going to get involved. And so you prosecute him for a crime you didn't even give him the chance to commit. Okay? And we don't involve our grandkids. Somewhere along the way, grandkids got real lazy. I got 3 of them, I got 3 young kids in my house. I live in Richmond, Virginia, in the suburbs, and we got 50 kids in the neighborhood. Nobody would cut lawns we did not have a single kid to cut lawns. And one kid said to me, I'll do it for $60. I said, dude, I'll do it for $60. That's a lot of money. That's better than the job I got right now. Right? So I really encourage you to invite the grandkids, invite that one son that doesn't really do a whole lot, you don't really believe he's going to participate, invite everybody. Because you'd be amazed the stories and the items that get passed around at this time. And kids don't want a whole lot of stuff until you give it all away. And they say, I really wanted that picture, Mom. Well, I asked you for 2 years if you wanted it, you didn't come and get it. And make sure they show up. But do not pay the grandkids. This is not a financial currency. This is an emotional currency. And this is the last time as a grandma you can really push. You're the only one that can say that to the grandkids. 10-minute sweep. This is really my best rule. When you walk into that house and you've seen 30 years was the average number in this room, you look at typically the basement or the garage or the attic is the hardest room to look at, or the kitchen. Pretty challenging too. And you look at it and you're like, I gotta clean this whole room today? Forget it, man. I'm gonna go watch Jeopardy. I'm gonna sit down and relax. You can't look at it as a whole room. You got to look at it as a very small 1 foot by 1 foot area. Same thing with my diet. I can't look at losing 50 pounds. I got to go lose how many? 1. I just got to run for 100 feet. You got to baby step it. Okay? And that's what this means. Just clean for 10 minutes. Anybody can clean for 10 minutes. 3 hours is kind of hard, especially on day 1. So when we get started, I give everybody in that house, everyone that's participating, they get a 1 foot by 1 foot area. Clean that 1 foot. You can do it. And then when you're done, pat yourself on the back, chill out and relax. At my house, we start at 7:50. Okay? And as soon as we hear, this is the voice, we sit down. Because we know the voice is coming on and we're done. Nobody gets it. Did I sing it too high? Okay. We love, this is the voice. Is that better? We love that show. It's fun for my family. But we get 10 minutes of cleaning done. And then we sit down and we chill out, and guess what we don't talk about? The cleaning. If you sit down, what typically happens is you sit down and you clean, and you're like, good job. We got to keep going on the rest of the house now. Let's go. 10 minutes is great. Let's do 2 hours. Don't push it. Just chill out, clean for 10 minutes. I say 5 nights a week. And I don't care which 5 it is. Just start 10 minutes at a time. And in 6 months, believe it or not, your house starts to really come together. Now this tip assumes you have the time. Do it. All right. Unpack your bags. This is really a couple of these tips are more about keeping the house clean. When's the proper time to unpack your luggage when you get back from the trip? Throw it out there. I say immediately. Some people say before you go on your next trip. We can joke about this when we're talking about luggage. That's easy. But what about our grocery bags? What about our bags from Target? This is when we get into trouble in the hoarding world. All right, we get home from Target. It was a hot summer, y'all. I live in Virginia. I think it was still pretty hot up here. It's not that far away. We get back from the store. We got 2 bags from Target. It's hot. I'll put away in a minute. I'm just going to sit down for a second. You put the 2 bags down, and then what happens? Life. Got to check email. Got to answer this phone call. My sister called with something crazy. All right, life starts, and you forget to unpack those bags. And then you forget what you went to the store for. And you go to the store a couple of days later, I forgot the mustard. And you buy that again, you come back home, you put those 2 bags down, where are they next to? The other 2 bags you didn't unpack. Right? My rule is straight up, do not sit down. Because if you sit down, it ain't happening. Right? Again, you see a lot of me on my diet issues here. I put my kids on the bus at 7 a.m. I got 2 extra hours. I got all 3 kids in one school. So my life starts at 7 now, not at 9. It's awesome. I got plenty of time to work out now. Like mathematically on paper, it looks like I can do it. Right? But I come in, if I sit down on the couch, what's not happening? Not going to work. I'm not going to go for a walk. So I don't allow myself, I actually put my shoes on. I've tried to trick myself so much. I put my shoes on before I go out to the bus stop, the tennis shoes, because if I sit down to put on my tennis shoes to work out, I ain't getting back up. Okay? Unpack the bags. Every item has a home. This is a hard one. Every item has a space in your house. Where does the food go? In the kitchen or the fridge. Not in the living room. Where do your tools go? In the garage or wherever your tools are. Not in your bedroom. All right, this is easy when things like that. Food, it's kind of easy. I got an extra box or something, and I don't have any space. I put it there. Something old that has to be recycled goes out. Now, this is simple. Let's talk about where it gets a little harder. Let's go to your closet. Yeah, Nan says, no way, move on. I want to notice she's the most fashionable woman in the room, so we're going to come up with this is hard. Your closet's full, your guest closet's full, because that's what they're for. Okay? They're not for the guests. Everybody's nudging their partner now. This one's hard. Okay? But these new shoes are on sale. Does your house get bigger because the shoes are on sale? No. Sometimes we don't need to buy stuff. Okay? The issue here is you've got to stop the inflow to make the outflow get easier. I keep bringing it to the diet. I can work out all I want. If I eat 8 pieces of fried chicken when I get home from running, have I done any good? No. No. I love chicken, by the way. It's my favorite meal in the world. I think they should sell fried chicken skin just as chips. Like, they don't eat the chicken, they sell the skin. Would you buy it? Yes. Yes, you would. Thank you. All right? I really want this is easy on food and things and books and that stuff, but it's hard when we get to the clothes. Sometimes you need to donate the clothes and get rid of them. We're going to go over a couple hits on that in a minute on how to get rid of the clothes. All right, 4-pile sort. This is when you really get going. There's 4 things you need to look at. Keep, sell, trash, or donate. That's it. Keep, trash, sell, or donate. 3 of those involve you getting items out of your house. 1 of them involves them staying. So when look, we're all getting older. I like to sit down in a chair, a comfortable chair. Make sure it's got some padding. Okay? Sit down. I have my keep. Actually, I have my trash. I have my sell, and I have my donate all around me. Where's the keep pile? All the way on the other side of the room. What am I doing to myself here? Making myself get up off my butt if I actually want to keep it. I've had families say, absolutely not. No way. There's no chance I'm getting rid of that item. I'll say, great, walk it over there 20 feet. I guess I can donate it. That's fine. I don't know. Okay? It's a little mind trick. It seems silly. But if you have to get up every time to keep it, you will keep less. Okay? And this is, the quickest cheat on this is to have your grandson walk it over there for you. Don't let this, you've got to do it yourself. If you want to keep it, you got to get up off your feet to do so. Okay? I promise you, you'll keep less. Okay? Distribute legacy items. What's a legacy item? Jewelry, wedding gifts. At our house, it was a piano. My mom had my grandma's piano. Very nice piano. She saved for it during the war. She bought it after World War II when Steinway started making pianos again. My grandma saved and saved and saved. She bought the piano. She learned to play on it. She was the organist at our church. My mom learned to play on that piano. She was the organist at our church. She ended up going to college and got a degree in piano. I played that piano growing up as a kid for 20 years. Now my son plays that piano. 4 generations play on that piano. It's a legacy item. And my mom always says, when I die, you're going to get that piano. And my mom's only 72. She's young. I'm 44. I said, Mom, it's 20 more years before you die, hopefully. I'm going to be 65 when that piano, I don't want a piano at 65. My kids are going to be in their 30s. If you want to see us enjoy that piano, now is the time to give it. If you want to see your kids enjoy the items you're telling them about, the legacy items, give them to them now. Now, my mom never comes to see me speak. She saw one episode of Hoarders, she thought it was disgusting. She never watched it again. So I feel safe telling these stories at these presentations. One time she showed up at a big church event, and the one thing my mom hates about my career is that I tell family business. She's a very private person. She came home that night and she said, I want you to know, I have decided that I will be keeping the piano. So she made the decision, and now I have to drive my son over there to play the piano. It really is silly to hold on to it, y'all. You're trying to get rid of the stuff anyway. Okay? It's kind of like Lewis's presentation, that 5 cents at the grocery store. If they give you 5 cents, you give it away to anybody. But if they try to charge you, you hold on to it. I thought that was like the greatest analogy I think I've ever seen. All right, avoid punting. What's punting? Punting is guilting the next generation into taking a specific item. So, no, I know you want it. You want it. It's usually an old wooden couch that has plastic on it, and it's in a room that we're not even allowed to go into. Okay? And you didn't want it. You're 60 years old and you didn't want it, but your mom made you take it. And now you're trying to make your daughter take it. And you normally follow up with, well, what would your grandfather think? My mom does this to me all the time. Well, what would your grandfather think? Dude, he has been dead 20 years. I don't think he's going to think a whole lot about it. See? Now, here, this is the comment that usually gets me in the most trouble. Over 60, guess what? You still feel an obligation to follow through and do these things. Under, and it's at 50 or 60 the line. I can assure you, at 45, I do not feel that obligation. We are guilt-free over here under 50. It does not bother us. Most of my clients, my mom, honest to God story, you know that my aunt is a pretty significant hoarder. That's how I got into hoarding. I cleaned her house. And then when I was 24, my dad, my stepdad, and both my grandfathers died. So I had to clean up all their 4 houses. I tend to believe I'm the best cleaner in the country. I've cleaned the most houses, I have the most tips. I love it. It's my favorite thing in the world. My aunt passed away, my mom calls me. I don't know what we're going to do. Who are we going to call? I think you just did call. No, like a professional, we're getting a professional to come and do it. My point is she felt an obligation to do it herself. Okay? She would never hire a professional because she felt it was her job to do it and follow through with it. A lot of you in this room probably feel that way. Let me assure you, your kids and your grandkids aren't going to think twice about hiring a professional. They're going to take your money to pay for somebody else to clean up your stuff. Best way to find out if your kids want your stuff? Ask. It's crazy. It's this amazing thing. You ask, and they're going to say no. And you're going to say, well, she doesn't know what she's talking about. I'm going to hold on to it for 2 more years. If she says no twice, dude, sell it. Give it to someone who does care. There might be someone at your church, or someone you work with, or someone that's a neighbor. There might be someone else in your life that's not children that actually would care more about that item than one. Give it to them. Just give it to them. Has an interesting way of looking at life. And we were running a 5K last year. Walking it, really. And we were in last place, like, clearly. And because the cop was waiting on us. And my son goes, Dad, if we turn around and go the other way, we'll be in first place. And I love the way he thinks. I don't care who you are. If you turn around, there's someone else that's going to be in first place. Right? People need it. They need our help. I've had employed a lot of guys that were homeless and ex-cons in my career. It takes a very special person to clean up hoarded homes compassionately. For me, I found it was guys that have done significant time in prison, like 20 years plus. Those are guys that have learned their lesson. They really understand life. They understand isolation at a better level than most people, sometimes literally. Right? But they're really, really good men. And I had one guy work for me. We were cleaning out a lady's house, and she had this ratty old t-shirt. She goes, I think I'll donate it. And Leroy goes, ma'am, I need your nice clothes, not your trash. He goes, I'm homeless, I'm not ugly. And I looked at Leroy, I was like, you're totally right. So many times we just dispose our trash to the donation centers and not the stuff they need. They need your good stuff. The trash, you're actually passing on a cost to them. They're going to have to throw it away. Okay? For donation, for me, I focus on immediate need, people that will give it away pretty quickly. So faith-based charities are ones I tend to go to. Immigrant services I tend to go to. Local food banks. I don't go to the big box donation centers. I won't mention them by name. But Goodwill is actually, it's the 6th largest retailer in the world, the U.S. They're the same size as Target as far as sales go. And I'm not trying to put anyone, I mean, they still do a lot of good work for labor. They give a lot of people that would never get jobs. But I tend to give my stuff to groups that will give it to the person that just got here and has nothing. And again, look around your neighborhood. Look for people. We had an awesome situation where this guy was a carpenter 80 years ago. And he had just passed away. So he had tools for, an entire 60-year career as a carpenter. He had tools that you can't buy. Like, he just created them with his own mind. It was a really nice set of tools. We had an offer for $30,000 for these tools. Wow. The young children, 30-year-old, wanted their mother to sell these tools. I could tell she didn't want to sell them. I said, man, what do you want to do? She says, well, and I had to isolate her from her kids to get the real answer. And I said, what do you really want to do? She said, well, my husband had an apprentice, a young man in the neighborhood. He and his wife were just getting their family started, and this would really advance his career. She goes, I kind of think I want to give them to him. She goes, my kids really want me to sell them. And she goes, what should I do? And as a professional, I've learned you never answer that question. You turn it around and you say, well, what do you want to do? And it's a cop-out, but the point is it's what their decision is, not you. And she goes, I think I really want to give them to him. And I said, do you need the money? She said, no. I go, you need to do what you want to do. She goes, well, can I be there? I said, sure. Let's set it up. We set it up, and it was like a Hallmark movie. I mean, this little girl comes up with a baby. The guy is bawling because he knows she just significantly changed this man's life, and they're hugging each other. That is so much more than a check. Okay? Don't be afraid to give the people that matter. Anytime someone says it's about the money, it's not. Okay? It's rarely about the money. Usually, it's about it matters to them. Okay? Sometimes we have an issue in this where it turns out grandfather maybe not was telling the whole truth on said item. Like, they'll be like, oh yeah, my grandfather carved that on the Mayflower. And that's the story that the family's been told. I'm like, man, it says Haverty's underneath. And that was 200 years ago. This is about 150 years. But the family believes it to be true because I'm obviously exaggerating on that story. But families believe what they believe because someone they love told them something specific for many years. Have you ever played that library game where you tell a kid something in his ear and they whisper it down about the time they get to the end of the row? It changes. Same thing in family heritage stories. Okay. Donate it if you individually. Because at the end of the day, legally, if everyone passes away, that's your item. And you're trying to live off of what dead people want you to do. I'm saying that very bluntly on purpose. They are dead. They are no longer physically here. Okay? Give it to someone that will care more about it. Yeah. All right, be realistic. Do you really need it? This is my closet. Right here, these are 28s. These are 30s. These are 32s. 34s. I got 3 pair of 36s. And I go from 28 to 36. You're all laughing because you have this in your life. Okay? There's 30 pair of pants there. 3 fit me. That means 90% of the pants do not fit me. Can I get rid of the 28s, 30s, and 32s? Yes. All right. That's a little harder because for a lot of people we say, well, I'm going to work out. And I'm going to get back to that. Or, in this, I don't like to do male, female, gender roles, but on the female side, you spend a lot of money on these clothes. And sometimes it's hard to let that money go. And the third problem with women's clothes is what happens? They come back in style if you wait long enough. 15 years is the number of that. I had a lady the other day, 97-year-old lady, wanted to hang on to her jean jacket. I said, ma'am, kind of feel like we missed it. You're 97? She goes, it's going to come back in style. And I was like, I'm not sure you're going to be here. And I said, I'll make a deal with you. I said, if you are, I will buy you a new jean jacket. And she said, fine, but she goes, I want you to put that in the contract. And I actually had to rewrite it in her contract. All right? You can let go of the 28s, the 30s, and the 32s. All right? Women, we can let go of the double zeros. We're not getting back to that. Okay? Another tip on this is if you got grandkids, do a fashion show. If they all laugh at it, get rid of it. And then you'll notice I'm a bit particular. All my hangers are going the same way. You know why this picture bothers me? Because there's wire hangers. I think it's horrible to use wire hangers. It should all be wooden hangers. All right? I'm very particular about the way I clean. Obviously, I will turn all the hangers the other way, actually. I turn them with the knob hanging out, and on January 1st, I put them all that way. I'm a wild man, that's what I do at New Year's Eve. And when I wear it, I turn the hanger around. And so at the end of the year, I know what I haven't worn. And I get rid of it. Now, I give this tip all the time. And this year I did it. There was a shirt I really liked, but I didn't wear that year. And my 9-year-old came in. Well, Dad, you said on stage that you got to get rid of it, so you got to get rid of it. Kids are real simple. Either something's right or it's wrong. They don't have that gray area yet. He goes, Dad, you said you got to get rid of it, so you got to get rid of it. So I let go of it. It's hard. Clothing is simple. Food, this is a little more difficult. Those dates on the food, how many of you, by a show of hands, think that's an opinion? The girl in the back does. All right, here we go. My mom clearly thinks it's an opinion. She thinks you got 6 months on the canned food. She'll cut the mold off. Now, I remember being poor. We all cut mold off the cheese, and my dad would always say, well, that's what cheese is. It's mold. You got to eat it, right? And he had a point. Those dates started in 1984. Will we at least agree if there's no date at all? We can get rid of it. Okay? Also, if you've moved it, if you paid a mover to move that food, it's probably not any good anymore. Now, why do all of us, including our parents and grandparents, hoard food at such a higher rate? Because we remember real hunger. We remember real hardness. Okay, and depression, the last of the depression kids. Right? I remember it. And that's why we hold on to a lot of things. So sometimes you gotta let it go. I mean, the most challenging part when we see a couple where a very wealthy person marries someone that was not growing up wealthy. And they have a hard time seeing things the same way. Okay? Clothes are hard to let go when you only had one pair of jeans and you shared it with your brother. Okay. I saved the best for last. Paper, paper, paper. Can we just not talk about it? It'd be easier. Okay? Paper's hard. Paper's potential. Pictures. Contacts. People that are going to write you. That might call you back. There might be money. in those envelopes. Some of the times there is. We found a lot of old, we have one lady here in Bethesda, we found over $2 million in stock certificates. More realistic, around this region, most of you got savings bonds in your paycheck in the 80s. And there might be $2,000 or $3,000 in $50 savings bonds. We find those all the time. It's not necessarily millions, but there's potential for a lot of things. So we feel like we need to go through the paper. The number one thing I hear from senior living communities that hire me, person's been waiting 10 years to move into the room. They've been on the wait list. The room's available. And they say, I'm ready to move as soon as I got through my stuff real quick. Real quick is the challenge. And it's the paper and the pictures that hold us up. Paper, I'll really encourage you, if you owe people money, guess what? They're going to find it. On the mail side, please focus on the incoming mail. Go through and get off of all those catalogs. Call in and say, take me off your list. Call the junk mail. Y'all are all staring at each other right now, okay? Because we all get too many catalogs. We don't need them. All it does is make us buy more. If you got an alcoholic, are you going to send him a magazine on all the beer? Okay? Get rid of it. We don't need it. Okay? Get off all the junk mail lists. Tell your banks to go paperless. And I sort at the source. I call it the poor man's shred. I actually have a box in the back of my car. And I go from the mailbox to my car in the trunk, and if I don't want that mail, I tear it up 3 times, and I put it in that box. And when the bank is having a free shred day, I drive by and I let them take that box, that Cobra box full of all my paper to shred. Because I'm not paying for it. Shredding can be expensive. And I'm not lifting it up. If I put that box in my garage or my utility room, and I throw that mail into it, what happens when that box gets full? I just keep stacking up on top of it. And it becomes this weird balancing act where it all falls in those. One of those catalogs is on slick paper, and it makes it all fall down everywhere. It goes all over your floor, and now you have another trip source. Paper can make you fall all the time. It's amazing. Shred it at the source. Put it in your car, get rid of it. Same thing with the donation center, by the way. I tend to have a donation box in my trunk, not in the house. If I want to donate it, I put it in the trunk, so when that box is full, I drive by the donation center and then take the box. If I have that box in my garage or in my utility room, what's going to happen? It's going to stay there. If I got to actually bend down to pick it up, it's not going to happen. All right, pictures. Pictures is the worst. My number one rule on pictures. If you don't know the name of anybody in that picture, throw it away. I don't care if they look like you. You don't know who they are. And if no one is alive that knows who those people are. And that's the real challenge right now. For a lot of us, you are the last people that know who anybody is. So in that situation, you do need to write those stories down. I just did a big TV show for PBS about the stories of people in the house. It turns out the grandkids, they do care about one thing. The stories. They want to know the stories. They don't care about the stuff. They care about the stories. All right? Go through your old, it was People's back then, but now it's CVS. Remember People's Drug? All right? They give you doubles on everything. Throw the doubles away immediately. You don't need the doubles. Nobody wants one of them, more or less 2 of them. All right? Throw the doubles if it's just a picture of, if there's no people in the picture. It's just a picture of a random beach. You don't even know what state that beach is in. Throw it away. Okay? If you don't know anybody. This is a new tip I really started giving last year, and I love it. Take a Ziploc gallon bag for every kid and grandkid in the family. You got 6 grandkids? Get 6 Ziploc gallon bags. I want you to put 20 pictures from your life in that bag for each one of them. And I want you to write the stories on the back of that. Now, I don't want the picture of you sitting at the zoo clutching your purse last week. We had a lady last month on this TV show I did, and I had her granddaughter, her daughter, and her. She was late 70s. We found a picture of her when she was 22 years old. She's wearing a pretty short skirt. She's smoking a cigarette. She's leaning on a car, and she's hanging out with a guy that's not Grandpa. And the granddaughter's like, "Who is that?" She goes, "Oh, that's Fernando." And I'm like, "I want to know Fernando. And she goes, well, you know, she goes, I was teaching art history at MIT. This is actually in Boston, and this is the Harvard Square. And she goes, we were hanging out one Saturday. She goes, and this was Fernando. He was the Spanish professor at MIT. And she goes, we had just a wonderful love affair that summer. And the daughter is just like, and the granddaughter goes, you taught at MIT? I just thought you went to MIT. And that's how the granddaughter found out her grandma was an art history professor. And then a 30-minute conversation happened. All because of Permanente. Right? Give them the real pictures when you were a badass. Right? Not just who you are right now. Okay? I can't stress those bags have been very successful. They don't cost a thing. And this was the first year at Hanukkah and Christmas where those were given out. And people have come back and said, man, we sat there for 3 or 4 hours going through those pictures. We sat the whole afternoon telling stories. That is what life is about. It's not about the stuff. It's about the stories. The reason you can't let go of this stuff is the stories and the people that you loved and you cared about. I've been doing this a lot lately. My son's favorite thing to do at night now, besides play video games and eat candy, is that we get into bed and say, Dad, tell me a story about your dad. Tell me a story about your grandpa. And I tell them stories about growing up on their farm. Because they just want to hear the stories. They want to hear the same story over and over and over. It's the stories that matter. It's the stories that connect us. Okay? It's not the stuff. All right, you can't take it with you. We talked about that. King Tut did. That's King Tut's garage. Ain't nobody left to tell his stories. That's just trash if you ask me. I don't know what it is. It's the experiences. All right, here's my new TV show. It's called Legacy List. It's about that list families give me. We're going to be done in 2 minutes. Families, when I go to help them, they say, I'm looking for 2 or 3 items. They're somewhere in the house. And our job is to find those 2 or 3 items. And more importantly, we find a few items they don't know that have some history. This show is going to start airing on PBS in January. Let's take a 1-minute look. Now, we got no audio, guys. Come back to that. It's no good if you can't hear it. The closed captioning will be provided by your local radio station. 2 seconds. Don't worry, Dick. Anticipation only makes it better. Whoop, that's not us. That lady is thriving, though. Look at her, man. I don't swim.